Just looking back, what are the funniest moments you had in the game?
Well, it's not really a funny game. I mean, as a player, I mean, I had always a sense of humour in the dressing room before the match. You know, that's a good thing to have somebody in the dressing room who's got a sense of humour. You know, to take the tension away out of the game. And as a player, I did that by telling exaggerated stories. You know, like in the village I was brought up, and all the old men worked in the pit. And they told exaggerated stories. Like one old man said that he was so strong that he pushed a ton of coal for a mile before he knew that the tub was off the rails. And I used to sit in the dressing room at Preston before the game, and I used to say, somebody would say, "What was your best season?" And I said, "Oh, that season I scored 15 hat tricks," you know, exaggerated with Kilmarnock, you see. And stories like that, I mean, that's just to lift away the gloom, lift away the tension from the game. I remember, this is a true story, we were playing it in the cup final, which was a deadly day, and it was 65, and Leeds hadn't won the cup, and we hadn't won the cup. And we're coming out to the tunnel, and I'm in the front with Reevy, Don Reevy, and I looked round and I said to Bobby Collins, "How are you?" He said, "Oh, I feel awful." See, he was the captain of Leeds. And we had a player called Albert Johansson, and he's coloured. So he's playing against Peter Thompson. He was playing in the left wing, and Peter Thompson was in the same side of the field against Rainey. So the idea of Peter was, if they couldn't get at the ball first, is to stall him, see, and hold him up at his tracks and keep Peter subdued, you know, till the help came. So Peter gets the ball and he's dribbling up towards the corner flag, and Rainey stalls him, you know, jostles him and stalls him, and Peter's, you know, jinking him, but he's not moving. So Sid Owens said to Reevy, he snookered. Peter snookered, you know. Reevy had snookered Peter. So he said, he snookered. This was the jargon, you see, at Leeds. And Bob Paisley, just instantaneously, Bob said, "Behind the black." That was Albert Johansson, you know. That's happened in the heat of the whole thing. The cup was at stake and everything. And he said he snookered, and Bob said, "Behind the black." That's happened. That's a true story. So these are kind of things that happen. But there's many things, I mean, funny things that happen. Like, as I said, we had an old man at Anfield, and I used to say, give them the toilet rolls as they come in the door, you know, before the game. That was a regular occurrence, that, of course.
What sort of responses did you get to that?
Oh, they're just laughs, and, you know, everybody liked to get a laugh. I mean, if you're tense, anything makes you laugh. But sometimes you can think of major things that happened, and sometimes you can think of minor things. We're travelling abroad, we get laughs and all, but they're true stories, I mean, about people. But this is another true story about Tommy Smith, and it just shows you what the game is. We were playing five-a-side one day, and Chris was in the team, and Tommy was younger than Chris, but he wasn't in the team. And he was always knocking at the door and saying, "When am I going to be in the team?" I said, "Well, I can't play 12 players, Tommy." I said, "There'll be an objection." See, so one day we're playing at five-a-side, and Tommy slid into Chris, and he caught him with the soles of his feet in the ankle, you know. Oh, a real sore tackle it was. And Chris, before he got on the floor, his ankle was all blown up, you know, bloody sore ankle. So this is the thinking of Tommy Smith, and all will be connected with us. We're all disturbed about Chris, you know. I thought Chris is going to be out of the game. It might have been Wednesday even, or Thursday, I'm not sure. So as we're coming off from the five-a-side pitch over to the pavilion, which is two lengths of the pitch away, Tommy says to me, he said, "Will I be in the team on Saturday?" He just crippled Chris. He wanted to take his place. That's absolutely true. He's so keen to get in the game. He wasn't concerned about Chris being crippled. He says, "Will I be in the team on Saturday?" And he was.
Let's say you have a young player in front of you, lots of promise, lots of talent, but his attitude, which is to a great extent created by experience, hasn't been shaped, hasn't been formed. What would be your advice to him about his attitude, an attitude that would see him through the game for the next 10 years?
Oh, well, a manager's job is to find out the characteristics of all his players and their temperaments and what makes them tick and what makes them, boosts them up and what knocks them down. And then he's got to treat them accordingly. It's as simple as that. So after you've been to a club so long, you know all your players, what knocks them down, what boosts them, what picks them up, and that's your job. And if you can't do that, then you're not a manager. There's nothing for you. Some of them, of course, you couldn't help. The temperament just can't do it. So that you've got to forget them. But in the main, the majority can be helped. And that's the main thing for a manager to do, know his players.
So what would be in general terms, you've got the young player, you say, look, these are the good things that you should develop, you should think about developing as an attitude to the game. What would be the categories that you would say to him that he should have in terms of develop enthusiasm, don't argue with the referee, all this?
That's right, that's one of the things that my brother Alec brought up. You see, the things you don't do and the things you do. But more or less the things you don't do. It's the people who make the fewest mistakes in life that are successful. So if you eliminate your mistakes, then you can't go very far wrong. So my brother Alec used to tell me long before, when I was a little boy, don't argue with the referee. No, don't dissent because you can't win. He said, because he won't change his mind because you go and argue with it. And then you'll get your name in the book and get sent off. Now, he said, fancy being sent off for talking. He said, you can't win. He said, you won't upset him. He's only blowing the whistle. He doesn't score goals or stop goals. So the dissent can affect your whole of it. Now, it's a difficult job to change a boy's nature. He might be a natural, moaner. Dissent's his second name or his middle name. So you've got to try and be repetitive. Now, repetitive people can get monotonous, but if they're talking to the truth, it's not monotonous. I mean, in New York, there was a lift, we went up in the hotel, and as it was approaching the lift, the top of the where we were going up, I said, mind the steps. It was a grandmother record, didn't it? Mind the steps, because there was a step you had tripped over. So being repetitive, if you're right, is a good thing. So you've got to drum it into them every day, or every match. Don't argue with them. And maybe even the biggest dissenter in the world could be changed a little bit. You could see that he was battering his head against the wall. There was nothing for him. He was all upsetting himself. And referees are human beings, and whilst they don't try to make mistakes, it's easy to make a mistake as a referee. And it's a very difficult job, refereeing. So that's the things to eliminate the mistakes. And it's the men, as I've already said, in life who make the fewest mistakes are successful. So get rid of the bad habits and concentrate on the good habits. And that's one of the things, how to live, of course, to live the life of an athlete. I mean, overindulgence and all the things, eating, or anything like that. Anything in moderation will not do any harm. In fact, it's good for you, anything in moderation. Food, a drink of beer, will not kill you. Overdone, yes, excessive beer. The only thing about beer, you can sweat it out. That's one good thing about it. So that if you lose some strength, you can't pump it back in. But if you put beer into you, you can sweat it out. So that it's how to live the life of an athlete. I mean, I got some steak and some milk to build them up. I've done that since I come to Liverpool with boys. Got them food to take. Got them special food they had to eat. Because they were promising boys and maybe needed a little strength.